Let's start with where we left in the previous session. If I'm not wrong, we have completed all our SDTM guidelines, that is all the guidelines that we would need to proceed with the domains, correct? And we also discussed about on overall what and all the various domains we have. Even that particular discussion we have completed. And I believe the last topic was, just a second, I just want to increase the font size. Yeah. So the last topic was we about to start discussing about special purpose domains, correct? So this is where I have stopped, and I said that we are going to start with our special purpose domains. The first special purpose domain is going to be a demographics, DE, correct? Sorry, DL, demographics domain. So this is the first domain that we are going to discuss, because this is the most important domain, because it is going to talk about the subject, correct? We are all interested with the subject. This is the domain which will talk about the subject. So we will kickstart with our discussion on demographics. Remember guys, for this strictly I'm going to follow SDTM implementation guide. Remember, for all of us, the SDTM implementation guide is like a Bible. We are going to use that particular one, and strictly based on that, we are going to discuss everything. All right? Because whatever the raw data that we are going to receive, or whatever the Excel files are, the text files that we are going to receive from the sponsor or from your biostatistician, we are going to create the data set, SAS data sets, as per the compliance with SDTM implementation guide. So the current version most of the organizations are following is 3.2. Even 3.3 is available, but 3.2 is the version that people are following currently. All right. So first thing first, demographics. So what is demographics? In a simple way, if I want to talk about the demographics is the domain which will be primarily talk about the subject. The subject is nothing but it can be a patient, right? It is going to be the volunteer who is going to participate in your clinical trials, or simply instead of talking about the patient or volunteer or any other name, we strictly go with the subject. It will primarily talk about all the subject related details. So that is the reason the special purpose domain demographics is most important to us. All right. So last week we discussed about some of the roles. Each column, that is each variable present in your domain, have a specific role, correct? What are they? It can be an identifier variable, it can be a grouping variable, it can be a record variable, or we also have some qualifiers, correct? There is a most important variable, we can call it as a topic variable. What do you mean by topic variable? Topic variable is the one which will indicate, or with a single column, it is going to represent what this domain is all about. So since we are talking about the subject here, for the special purpose domain, for the demographics domain, the topic variable is subject ID, SUBJID. This is going to be my subject ID, is going to be my topic variable. So last week in the class I have mentioned to you, a topic variable is the one which will identify your domain, correct? And also I discussed that it is going to focus the entire meaning of the domain. For every domain there is only one topic variable, correct? I also given some of the example. For demographic domains, it is going to subject ID. For comments domain, it is going to be coval, correct? For subject elements, it is going to be element code. For subject visits, it is going to be visit number. For all other domains, let's say interventions, since all the interventions are related to the treatment, it will start something like XXTRT, correct? Under that, if it is going to be exposure, it is going to be EXTRT. If it is exposure as collected, means it is going to be ECTRT, correct? And also I told about the events. Events are nothing but which already happened, correct? Something already happened. So there we are going to have something called XX term, correct? If it is going to be adverse events, it is going to be AE term. If it is going to be like disposition, DS term, correct? When it comes to the findings, findings are nothing but the test related, something related to your test. So XX test code. If it is going to be lab, LB. If it is going to be ECG, EG. If it is going to be death details, DD. Correct? Even for the trial design domains, we have the topic variables. So in a single way, in a single line, if I want to talk about it, the topic variable is the one which will focus on the entire meaning of your domain. So for subject, for my demographics domain, the topic variable is going to be subject ID. And here itself, we also talked about something that is nothing but your identifier variable. Correct? What do you mean by identifier variable? Which can be the name itself is telling, which is going to help us to identify the domain. Correct? These are identifiers. So what are the different identifiers again here? Can I say STUD? Again, I'm going to discuss all this, but don't worry about it. I'm just telling on a whole now. STUYID, study identifier. It also can be a domain, correct? Domain is also a identifier. What's the next thing? It can be U subject ID, unique subject identifier. USUBJ ID, unique subject identifier. Correct? In addition to that, because I'm just giving you these details because these are the ones which we discussed in the previous class. So for each domain, you should aware of what are going to be my topic variables, what are going to be my identifier variables, and at least what are going to be my recording variables. So what do you mean by recording variables? These are the ones, just the information which we are going to collect from the record qualifiers. These are the ones which you can collect from the subject directly. So what are the various examples for that? Gender, age, date of birth date and birth time, which country, what is the ethnicity, what is going to be the race. All these are going to be the information that we are going to get it from the subject, correct? Right? On a whole, before we talk about each and every variable that is present in your demographics domain, I just try to bring all the variables that we are already aware of, because we discussed this in the previous class. In addition to that, what are all the other variables we can, or other information we can have it here? I told you on the beginning of your clinical trials, when you volunteer, let's say that there is going to be a clinical trial, right? Your sponsor is looking for the patients as well as the volunteers, correct? So there are three people who are involved in the clinical trials. Who are them? The healthy volunteers, the patients who are suffering with the same disease, the patients which are suffering with the related diseases, other diseases, correct? All three groups will be part of my clinical trials. So before we pick these volunteers, we are going to do the screening, correct? So before even going with the screening, I said that there is going to be one form the patient is going to sign, or the volunteer is going to sign, or simply the subject is going to sign. That form will be called it as ICF. Can someone tell me what is called ICF? Anyone?
Informed consent.
Exactly. Informed consent form. What is the main details that we are going to capture there in the informed consent form? Can I say when the ICF is signed? That is ICF signed date. This is the first date because I'm trying to write the date variables here, right? So here I talked about the topic variable. Here I talked about the identifier variables. Here I'm talking about the variables that can be collected from the subject, which are nothing but the record qualifiers. And finally here I'm talking about the dates. When I talk about the dates, some of the dates that are part of my domain is, the first one is ICF date. That is when the subject has actually signed the consent. Okay. What is the next thing? Once subject is signed it, he will go to the screening. Once the screening is completed, we are going to create the arms. Arms are nothing but the different groups, and we have two different groups. Remember, what are the two different groups, guys? I said that we are going to group all the volunteers, subject, patients, and everyone all together subjects. We are going to do the randomization. During the randomization, randomly we are going to take the people and we are going to keep them into two different groups. Yes, wonderful. One is intervention group. What is the other one? Control group.
Control.
Correct. One is intervention group, or you can also call it as a study group. The other one is going to be control group. Correct. So these two groups we are going to create. After that, we started giving the treatments. That is nothing but arms. Right. So the second date that we are interested is when treatment started. What is my treatment start date? That is my next important thing. Correct or not? When the treatment is started. Correct? Simply I can call it as a treatment start date. We try to identify in general what might be the dates. That's the intention here. The other one is, when is the treatment end date? Correct? So treatment you're going to start, then you're going to end the treatment at some point. That can be phase 1, end of phase 1, end of phase 2, or phase 3 or phase 4, or between that you also have your washout period. Correct? So before we give if I'm going with a crossover study design, in the crossover study design, each subject will undergo different drugs. Correct? When he or she going with the different drugs, first of all, before we give the new drug, whatever the initial drug we have given, the drug completely need to be take out from the body. That is, the effect of that particular drug need to be completely off from the body. So how much time the body is going to take it, that time you can call it as a washout period. After the washout period, we are going to start the other treatment. Finally, after all the treatments, when the final treatment was done, that is nothing but treatment date. For an example, something went wrong. Patient is no more. So you need to also capture the death date. Correct? Finally, let's say all these trials are completed. Everything is done. All of them are completed. There is going to be a team. The team is going to collect all this information, right? They're going to record all your clinical trials information, and then your medical writer is the one who is going to create the report. Correct? We also talked about it under the various roles. So we also need to talk about DM, demographic information collection date. So before we start with all the variables and all other details, can I say that up to this we are all aware of? These and all somehow here or there we have discussed. Correct? Because when we start talking about the subject, when you talking about the various variables as part of the examples, so far we have already discussed these. Correct? These are the variables we pretty much aware of. Apart from this, there are a lot of other variables that we are going to discuss. So let's start with them. So first we start with the variables that we are aware, and then we are going to start discussing about all other variables. So in general, the variables which are part of my domain are study ID. Remember, the reason again and again why we are writing this is going to be, we need to make sure that this one is in our brain, right? At any point of time, if someone asks you what are the various variables which are part of your domain, if they give the domain name, you should be in a position to see them. So the first thing, the variable here is going to be study identifier. Then domain, that is abbreviation for your domain. unique subject identifier. I'll go with each of this separately now. I will explain how to, whether it is going to be a derived variable or what. If it is a derived variable, how to derive it. I'm going to talk about each and everything about it. Then I'm going to have something called subject ID, that is subject identifier for the given study. Then I have INVID. INVID stands for investigator identifier. Then I have INV name. So INV name stands for investigator name. And from here onwards, I'm going to talk about the date variables. So the date variables I'm going to talk here are, remember, most of my date variables here starts with R. So RF, IC, DTC. TC stands for your timestamp. Correct? That is timestamp in character, date and time in character. End of your variable, if you see C there, it is in character. If you have N, it is in numeric format. So this is nothing but reference informed consent date and time in character format. That is, we talked about informed consent date, right, when we signed it. Correct? This is informed consent date and time. We have something called RF, RFP, ENDTC. END stands for your end. This is nothing but reference end participation date and time in character format. No worries, I'll explain each and everything separately again. For now, I'm just listing out what we are going to discuss. And then we have subject reference start date. Subject reference, ST stands for your start, DTC. That is subject reference start date and time. Same thing, I have RF ENDTC, subject reference end date. That is end date and time. Then I have something called RFX STDTC. Again, ST stands for your start, STD stands for your start date, TC stands for your date and time, C stands for your character format. The same thing will be continue as is. This is something like the first study treatment start date. Will have multiple study treatments, right? The first study treatment start date. The same thing, instead of STD, if I go with END, that is going to become my, this is going to be the last study treatment. That is the date time of last study treatment. So these are the dates. These are going to be the variables, the basic variables. Now, we have something called ARM. So what is ARM, guys? Can someone tell me? Meanwhile, I'll write what and all comes under ARM.
Each treatment group will call it as harm.
Yes. So each treatment group we can consider, or even the treatment that we would like to give it to that particular group also will be called it as ARM, right? Either the treatment we can call it as, or the treatment group also will be referred as the ARM. In general, ARM stands for treatment. Mean to say, if I'm giving a drug A to a group of people, then my ARM is going to be group A. If I'm giving a placebo to the intervention group, right, then my ARM is going to be placebo. So the ARM is nothing but the description of a planned ARM. What is the ARM that we have planned, right? ARM code. So ARM code, the name itself is telling you whatever your planned ARM is there, that ARM code. So every treatment has a code. So I can simply call it as a treatment code. You plan something, but when you come to the treatment, you have given a different treatment. I mean to say, you planned something, let's say you want to give one drug to a particular patient, but before giving that particular drug, you thought like the patient is already having some headache or other things. So instead of giving that particular one, you started with a headache tablet first. So your planned ARM is different, the actual ARM is different now. So what is the ARM, or what is the drug that you have given? What is the treatment that you have given to this given patient or the subject is nothing but your actual arm. Then the actual arm, so arm also has a code. That code is nothing but the actual arm code. Now, DTHDTC, nothing but DTH is nothing but death. DT stands for date and time. C stands for your character. Nothing but date or time of death. There is something related to this, the death flag. So if the patient is no more or the subject is no more, the death flag is going to be yes, L it is going to be yeah. So the flag, death flag. Then we have something related to birth, BRTH followed by DTC. So which is nothing but date or time of the birth in the character format. So we all know that this is death and time related, birth related. Then we all know that all these clinical trials are going to be carried out in a site. So every site is going to have the ID. So site ID. So this is nothing but your hospital ID or clinic ID, where particular this clinical trials is actually happening. That subject, the site identifier. Then I'm going to have the generic terms. The generic terms are going to be age. We are going to have age U. Can someone tell me what is the difference between age and age U? Last class we discussed this.
Age in units.
Exactly. What is the unit? Right? Age units and age. U stands for units. Wonderful. Then we have something called race. Race is pretty much explainable. Country. And we have ethnic. So these and all, I can simply say that except the site ID, the remaining 5 are nothing but your recorded variables. Correct? This information you can actually get it from the subject itself. Then finally you have DMDTC, which is nothing but date and time of collection when you collect the information. Finally, DMDY, study day of collection. These two we discuss little elaborately in the subsequent classes. So these are all the variables, correct? Only where can I get these variables? Is there a reference place or something? Absolutely. All you need to do is simply go to your implementation guide that I have already sent it to you. In the implementation guide, all these details are available. Correct? Pretty much same variables are there. All these variables, you can see all of them I have covered, right? But here the order is different. Whatever I have defined, the order is different because based on our availability, based on our understanding levels, I have defined them. Okay, but we are going to discuss all of them. We are going to understand the significance of each one of this, and we also need to understand how to define them, right? Okay, first start with the most important one. So now we will go in the same order. So what is going to be the first thing that I would like to do, understand here? These 3. What are them? Study ID, domain, and use subject ID. Can I say these 3 are nothing but your identifier variables? So first let's start with these 3 identifier variables. So before even start this particular one, remember the structure of your demographic domain is, for each subject we are going to have only one record per subject. You don't have multiple records for each subject. Whatever the information that I would like to collect or that I would like to record for the given subject, I'm going to keep it in a single record only. I mean to say that one row for each subject in a straightforward way, one row for each subject. That is the structure. So let's start with your identification variables. Under the identification variables, we start with the first one, that is nothing but your study ID. So when I talk about the study ID, the most important thing that we need to talk is what exactly the study ID is. Study ID stands for the study identifier. what exactly is going to be the study. Okay, who will define this? Who will define the study identifier, or who will give this particular one? Can I say, or where it will be present? If I go to this, the first thing, study ID, unique identifier for the study. Well and good. Who will give that? Any idea? Wonderful, Sanji, sponsor. So who is going to give the information of this particular one? Your sponsor. So can I say that this will be provided by sponsor, right? The person who is actually funding our entire clinical trials, either the sponsor or the contract research organization, CRO, are the ones who are going to provide this. What exactly it contains? Can I say this is nothing but the name of the study as mentioned in the protocol, correct? This is nothing but the name of the subject which is actually mentioned in your protocol. As simple as that, right? Okay, how it looks like. I have already shared one protocol with you last week, correct? Maybe I need to, I don't know whether I can access it or not because it is a new laptop. Or okay, you can refer in your that document that I have shared with you. If I look for the example, wonderful, Sanji. If I go for the example, it can be of any format or any name. Each sponsor will go in a different way. Let's say I'm just going with one of this, CT1PM CM _0810. Pretty much it is going to be my one of the example. Or I can simply say that there is going to be a new drug that we would like to go ahead with. Let's say Covaxin. All right, Covaxin followed by some dosage name. Let's say 111, 112211. This can be of any name, this can be of any format. There is no specific format for this particular one, but all you need to understand is going to be the study ID is nothing but it is the name of the study as prescribed by your sponsor. The sponsor is the one who is going to provide this. It's simply going to identify your study. Then we have something called domain. Domain is all about, it is simply an abbreviation of domain name, because we all know that as per this your implementation guide, it's supposed to be only 2 characters long, correct? Simply it is going to be a 2 character long. Always it can be defined in your uppercase. What it is going to mention? Simply it is going to mention, it is going to be a abbreviation for your domain name. For an example, if I go with the example for this particular one, for demographics it is going to be DM. For subject elements, it is going to be SE. So subject visit is going to be SV. For adverse event, it is going to be AE. Like this. Correct? A very simple and straightforward one. All we are trying to discuss here is going to be, it is simple and abbreviation for your domain. That is going to be a 2 characters long. It is going to be always, we mention that in the uppercase. All right. Then what is your use subject ID? It is a derived variable. Correct? It is also an identifier. This is nothing but unique subject identifier, right? Now, the main important thing here you need to understand here is it is a combination of, or it is derived based on 3 variables named. What are the 3 variables? Study ID. The second one is going to be site ID, that is nothing but your hospital ID or where this trial is happening. And finally, the third one is going to be subject ID. Now you can ask me, only how do I divide this? The formula for it. The formula is going to be, it is going to be concatenation of, again, the same 3 variables. What are them? Study ID, site ID. Try to write as much as possible so that you remember them. and finally your subject ID. So simply I can concatenate all this to get this particular one. So you already know what is called site ID is. It's a study ID identifier. On the top itself I just have mentioned that, and we have something called the other one is going to be your subject identifier, right? All the three you are pretty much aware of, right? So enough is theory, right? So let's start with our first task. Let me save this. I can call this as D domain 1. So far we have discussed a lot of theory. Though it is going to be a clinical SAS class, we are trying to cover this as a CDISC class, correct? So far no code, nothing have done. So it's an opportunity to write our first code. All right, let's start. I'm giving your assignment number 1. So under the assignment, or you can class task or assignment, whatever you can consider it. It is going to be okay for me, right? So first thing is, let's say I'm going to give you 3 different details. I'm going to give you 3 different details. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to tell you what is my input. I'm going to tell you what is the expected output, right? I need you to do that particular one. All I have done here is I have a study name, because we just talked about a study name, correct? So I have something called my study name here. So input details as per protocol. So what and all I have here is number 1. I have something called my study name. I have my study name. My study name is nothing but NFP 222 G1. This is my study name. So what is study name? Your study ID simply, correct? This is nothing but your study ID. All of you accept that? Okay. Number 2. I have information about my site details. My site details are nothing but the site is happening somewhere in the, let's say it is happening in the Hong Kong. So I'm just calling as Hong Kong, followed by 111. HK 111 is the place where this particular clinical trial is happening. Number 3. I have details about the gender, that is sex. It can be either of male or female. We don't have any other thing. You know, you have transgenders as well, but we are not considering the transgenders. Number 4. The domain that I'm talking here is, let's say the domain name. The domain name is going to be DM. These are the basic details. In addition, I have patient details here, or subject details. I call it as a patient now, because you need to write as per your SDTM, patient details. My patient details are, these are, I can call it as from protocol. These are the details from protocol. Now I'm giving the details, patient details until. So when it comes to the patient details are in a data set. This is called your data set. So you guys need to create a data set now, right? So the data set is like this. 111. This is your patient ID. This is your patient ID. Then I have gender. Maybe you may confuse, so just you can consider as a patient ID here, right? So when I have patient ID and gender, my patient ID is going to be 111. Gender is equal to M. 222. Gender is equal to male. 333. female, 444, F, 555, F, 666, M, 777, 1, 888, 2. Remember, 1 stands for male, 2 stands for female. Okay, this is like note. From patient's dataset. All right. So all I'm saying here is going to be, I'm giving the details one by one. So this is my input details as per the protocol. What are them? I have a patient information. Patient details are here. That is nothing but I have around 4 plus 4, 8 patients are there. I just have given the gender details of them. For each patient, I just have given the gender details. So I have the gender which is mentioned in a irregular format. I mean to say that as per the convenience the persons has provided them. So we need to convert them as per the SDTM. You need to look at your variable names. You need to look at all other details. You should not miss anything. This is my input. All these are going to be my input. Now all I'm expecting from you is I need the output like this. I'm calling as desired output, or you can also call this as your expected output. My expected output or my desired output is this. I need you to prepare SAS code and you need to share that particular code with me by tomorrow. All of you without fail. All right. So it shouldn't take more than half an hour. I can say that 10 minutes is more than sufficient, but I'm going with half an hour. Right. So what is my output? You all know that I told you already in demographic domain, one patient, one subject. Sorry, for one subject, one record. Correct? So how many patients are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. So obviously, I'm expecting my output to have 8 records. Correct or not? I have already mentioned this here, right? One record per subject. I have 8 subjects. Automatically, my output is going to be 8 records. Okay. Then, for all the 8 patients, can I say my study ID is going to be the same? What is my study ID? Study ID is nothing but study identifier, right? So you have your study name here. Can I say this will become your study identifier? Can I have a quick confirmation? So everyone saying yes. So for my study ID, this is going to be my first output. Correct? Right. Cool. That is fine. Second, can I say my domain name for all these will be called it as DM? The domain name is also DM, right? That I can call it as a domain, right? Then as per my clinical trials, it is going to be sorry, SDTM, it is going to be domain, so it is DM. All right. After that, what I'm going to have? Can I call it as? Can I? What else I can go for? Maybe I don't want to show my site ID and other details for now. So what I can do is I want my unique subject identifier, USUBJ ID. What is this unique subject identifier? If you go a little up, here I mentioned that it is a combination, the concatenation of study ID, site ID, subject ID. So your study ID is this, correct? Right. This is my study ID hyphen my site ID. This is my site ID hyphen. What is the third thing? My subject ID. What is my subject ID? For the first record, it is 111. Can I say this is going to be my subject ID? U subject ID, unique subject identifier. And after this, for each subject I want to show, I need to go with the subject ID here, 111. And finally, I want to have sex details here, each gender details, which is going to be either M or F. Yeah. So now I'm going to copy this particular one. I'm going to populate this for 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. For all of them, domain is going to be the same. For all of them, study ID is going to be the same. When it comes to the subject identifier, here alone I'm going to have the changes. What are the changes I'm going to have? This is 222. This is going to be 333. This is going to be 444, 555, 6, 7, 8. Correct? The same thing will happen here as well. It is not going to go. 111 will be there. It is going to be 222, 333, 4, 5, 6, 7, and finally 8. And most important stuff, female, male, male, female, female. That's it, right? The first one is male, male, followed by female, 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 male, male, female. Can I say this is going to be the expected output for me? I'm going to share this particular one with you. All of you must give me this output by tomorrow. First of all, you understand what is the requirement is? Can I have a quick confirmation from everyone? Yes or no? All right. Let me go with the second one. So now let's proceed with the remaining details. Now I want to continue with the next one, which is nothing but the INV ID. What is INV ID? INV ID stands for, this is nothing but investigator identifier. Investigator identifier. Okay. What is on a lighter note? Can I say simply it is going to be doctor ID? It can be a doctor. It can be a clinician, right? Those ID. Correct. If I want to give some examples for this can be anything. Generally, guys, again, if I go with the doctor IDs, generally doctor IDs will be generally this will be mentioned in the form of the TIN. TIN is nothing but 9 digits or 9 characters. Each doctor uniquely identified with TIN. Each hospital will be uniquely identified based on the NPI. NPI is 10 character, TIN is 9 characters. For an example, A, B, C, D, E, 1122. This is one of the example for the investigator ID. Number 2, let's say I have INVNM. What is INVNAM? Investigator name. This is nothing but my investigator name. For an example, this can be name of a doctor, clinician, or also you can call it as a nurse. Correct? All these are nothing but your investigator names only, right? Then the same will be applicable even there. This is also a doctor ID, It can be of your clinician ID. It can be of your nurse ID as well. All right. Then purely it is going to be a character data type. Correct? And now the most important thing, oh sorry, here you don't need it. Anyways, it is going to be a character data type. So I specifically doesn't need to mention that. So if I go with the example, you can go with any name. So I just go with my favorite characters, which I generally follow in the series. I can say that Simon Baker, or it can be of your Megan Boone, or it can be of your James Spider, it can be anyone, correct? Simply investigator names. Now, the other thing that I would like to talk here, because these two are very generic in nature, that's the reason I'm not explaining anything, because investigator identifier, investigator name only. Now I am going with RF ICDTC. Simply, if you want to remember, this is going to be first insert your informed consent form signed date, right? Or sorry, it's not a signed date. Yeah, it is a signed date only. But while explaining it, what we can say is your RF stands for reference. Go with the same acronyms. RF stands for reference. IC stands for informed consent date and time. D for date, T for time. Most important thing in character format. This end C stands for, you see, RF stands for reference. IC stands for informed consent. D stands for date, T stands for time, C stands for character format. What exactly it is? If I want to talk about it, I can simply say that this is the time. This is actually the subject. Okay. When the subject is signed the ICF, informed consent form. When actually he have done this, he or she have done it. That format is the one that I need to remember. Sorry, that is the date that I need to remember. Most importantly, it should be character data type. We also discussed this when we are talking about the standard implementation guide. That is, all of your dates in your SDTM implementation guide are in the character format only. So let's go with the examples. The example is going to be, let's say, 2022. Today's date itself we can take 12/04/12. This is the format, correct? So what exactly the format it is? The format is going to be, what is the format, guys? Either you can call this as YYYY MMDD. The exact format for this IS 8601DA. This is the format, correct? Sometimes I can mention this in the date and time format also. 2022/04/12 followed by T, the timestamp. That what is the current timestamp now? 8:58 p.m. 20:58/12. Meaning, if I look at the format of this particular one, the format is going to be YYYY MMDD T HH MM. Correct? What is the original format name for this particular one? IS 8601 DT. Correct? All right. Now, all of you are clear up to this? The very basic details, but we are going in detail. Now, it's a time for another assignment. With assignment number 2. The assignment number 2, the input details, again I'm going with the input details here. The input details are, I'm giving you the first data set. So I have details about the, let me take the same one. So I have my patient details. Let me take the same one. It will be easy for you even to prepare the data set for you, right? And then I also have the details from ICF details. The ICF details are like this. Again, it is going to be a data set. The data set here I'm talking about I have my patient ID, term. No worries about the term. Later we can discuss about it. For now, simply follow your DT, that is the date, signed date, you can call it as. And I have time, signed time. So the patient IDs, I'm just going with all of them one more time. All right. So when it comes to the term is going to be whether the patient is signed or not, when the patient was signed actually. So here I can say that ICF signed. When this particular patient actually signed the form. So all of them, the term I'm just going with signed only, because without ICF signed, we cannot have the patient to be within the clinical trials, correct? So all of them are signed. Okay, when this guy, 9th April 2016, 12th September 2018, no, it should be in the almost same ranges, maybe different trials, but all of them I just try to maintain in the same year. Okay, maybe we can consider the COVID scenario. So when I consider the COVID scenario, I can say that all of them somewhere in 2020. Okay, and then I have something called 11 August 2020. Then I have 13th July 2020, 16th June 2020. Maybe I can go with only 5 of them. Yeah. So I'm just going with the time. So all of them somewhere they signed it at 10 o'clock, 10, 1, 12, system capture time, 10, 10, 13, then 13, 30, 00, 14, 11, 46. Again, I have someone signed by evening 4 o'clock, 16, 15, 40. Okay, these are all your input details. So now all I'm expecting here is I have my inputs, both the inputs are there. So now I'm just going with the desired output. My desired output is like this. I'm expecting an output which should be like this. I need to have subject ID. All right. After the subject ID, I need to have the gender. You know from where you can get the gender details. The gender details you can get it from the the previous data set on the top, right? I just need the reference, inform, consent, date, time in character format. All right. So how do I get this particular one? The subject ID details are here. Correct. Take this here. All of them should be as per the standard. The standard is going to be either it can be male or female. All right. The most important thing here, it should be of a timestamp, correct? Because I'm looking at the timestamp details. So how can I write the timestamp details now? Can I say, maybe I can copy this. It won't be helpful because I don't have, I can do like this. So this can be male. This also can be male. The remaining 5 are going to be female, right? This is how it is. All right. Yeah, male, male, female, 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 right? So now between these two, I have to build up the timestamp as per the SDTM protocol. What is going to be as per the SDTM protocol? I just need to replace this with T. And then I need to ensure that between this, there's supposed to be a, oh, again, I need to change it anyways. Since it's April 04 followed by 09, correct? 2020 0409. Then it is going to be September, right? 12th September. Since it's going to be a 12th September 0912. It is 11th August. That is 811. It is going to be 0811. It is going to be 13th July 730. 0730. This is going to be 6th June 616. 0660. Right? So this is my expected output. So the first one is going to be the input data that I have provided to you. The second one is going to be the expected output. So all of you has to try this. All of you has to provide me the details because you have already completed this particular one. Mean to say that these details are already aware to every one of you. Correct? So it shouldn't take time for you guys. All right. Now the next one. So we have already talked about some of the dates. Let's proceed with the remaining dates now. RF-SDTTC. What you can talk about it? RF stands for reference. STD stands for your subject. Correct? You can call it as start. Correct? So I can call it as subject reference subject, or first I'll go with this subject reference start date and time in character. So what exactly the meaning is? Simply treatment started when the treatment is started. Treatment start date and time in character format. Clear? All I'm trying to say here is when the treatment is started for the given subject. Simple. So RF ENDTC. So the name itself is telling to you what is RF ENDTC to you. This is, maybe I can write it in the same way how I have written on the top. Subject reference end date and time in character format, or in a generic way, if I want to talk about it, I can simply say that it is going to be your study, the complete clinical study completed date, sometimes treatment end date. Remember both of them, treatment end date in date and time in character. Don't get confused about this. This is very important. Either it can be study completed date and time in character, or it can be treatment end date or time in character. There might be a question. There might be a question. Only if both of them are available, which should I consider? Right? So what is the meaning of study completed date and treatment completed date? There will be multiple treatments in a study, right? Correct? I can have multiple treatments in a study. So there are cases where there is only one treatment. Let's say parallel study. So what do you have in a parallel study? The same treatment will be continued to the subject till the end of the study. If you go to the last stage of your study, that is your treatment ended, that is also going to be your subject ended. That is just study ended. When both of them are available, very important thing, remember. When both treatment end date and study end date are available, okay, Sanji is saying that whichever is going to be the last date of treatment, that need to be considered, right? So in general, when I have a study end date and treatment end date, both of them are available, priority should be given to study end date. Remember that. This is generic also. Maybe Sanji, whatever you are saying is also the same, because when I have both treatment end date, study end date, always after the treatment only you are going to complete your study. Correct? So obviously study end date is going to be the last date that is available. If you want to talk it in a generic way, yes, you can consider that. Correct? If you are not considering, if you say that, maybe I can give you the example here that will give you. The flow is there, right? What is the flow? First, ICF will be signed. After that, you will go with the screening. After completion of the screening, you will go with the randomization. After you go with the randomization, you will enter into the treatment. Once all the treatments are done, then you also do the follow-up. Once the follow-up is also done, all the scheduled visits also done, then you say that it is going to be an end of the, yes, treatment could be ended if the subject drops out. Yes, true. So this is going to be the total screening, right? Total process, right? Correct? So what I can say now, if this is going to be the total process, in this process, treatment is ended here, but you also do some of the follow-ups. After your treatment, you do one follow-up just to see are there any side effects or not, right? After that, you can confirm that yes, the drug is working fine. So the treatment ended by last week. Let's say that somewhere in 4th of your April, you went for a follow-up. You schedule a follow-up of 1 week. That is yesterday. Yesterday you had a follow-up and mentioned that everything is going good. So your treatment, the study end date is going to be 11th April. 4th April was the date the treatment completed. 11th April was the date where your follow-up also completed. So the study is completed on 11th April. So both the dates are available. So you need to consider your 11th April is going to be your final date. That is going to be your RFND. Am I clear, everyone? Why we are going with that? All right. Maybe I can put this one here. Maybe I can just put this here for reference. Any questions here? All of you are able to follow? Right. Okay. This particular date, remember another thing, most important things that you need to remember here. Number one is this. There is another thing also you need to remember here. That is, These values can be null, right? This is nothing but both your reference start date and reference end date can be null for whom? Can be null for unassigned subjects. So Mohanty, this is what you talked about. So what do you mean by unassigned subject? Unassigned subjects are the one, in a simple way, the volunteers are the subjects the total subjects dropped, or I can say that, okay, subjects who got failed in the screen, that is one case. The other case will be even after the screening, right? The people who are dropped, voluntarily or intentionally, both of them will be called it as unassigned subject. For unassigned subjects, the treatment will not start. The treatment will not end. Am I correct or not? So let's say that this is going to be the drug that we want to test it for the diabetes, right? Not for the diabetes. Let's say there's some retina therapy. We don't want the people who are already suffering with the diabetes. So in the screening, we have identified that 2 subjects are already suffering from the diabetes. So we will not consider them, but we have recorded the subject ID, we have recorded their sex and other details, but for them, my RFID is going to be null. And for my RFID, start date, end date, both of them are going to be null. Let's say there are no health issues for one subject, but once he cleared the screening, before the treatment start, he or she decided not to go with the treatment, right? In that case, what we need to do? Again, since they are not taking the treatment at all, the start date and date will not be available for them. There is nothing but they are dropped. Am I correct? All of you, any questions? Guys, I believe it must be interesting, not like the previous classes, because we are going with both the theory as well as the practicals together. So it must be interesting. If any of you are not able to follow, if any of you are feeling difficulty, let me know. Now time for assignment number 3. Wonderful. Because once you have the base ready, right, then we can go ahead with all this. That's the reason first I tried to complete all the base. Now I'm just going ahead with the complete theory plus practical together. All right. So let's go with one more task, and we can wind up the session for today. All right. So last one. Just give me a second. I'm trying to let me take the patient details from here. So here are my patient details, and then just a second. And the second thing is going to be, here are my treatment details. Right, here are my treatment details. Under the treatment details, what I have is, let's have them if we don't want gender, let's say we have treatment detail, and finally we have something called start date. Or I can say that simply date, treatment date. I can call it as a treatment date. All right. Now, the treatment is going to be something called placebo, Then give me a second. So I'm too addicted to Notepad++, so feeling difficult. Okay, here it is going to be drug B. So when it comes to 10,333, there is only placebo given. When it comes to 444, we have given drug A, then drug B, then finally we go with placebo. All right, and 105, drug A, drug A. That's it. Now let's go with the treatment dates. So when I go with the treatment days for 111, so somewhere here we started, right? So 2020-04, that is 2020, April 2020 we have started, correct? Let's use the same just to have a consistency. 9th April 2020 we started with the placebo. That is the first stage. That is again on 11th May, again on 17th July. So we have started the placebo treatment for him somewhere in the month of April, and we have completed it by 17th July. Throughout, we have given only the placebo to this particular person. Then for 222, we started by 12th April, then it ended by 10th October. And then for 333, it is 2020, August 2020. Correct? Let's have it. And for 444, it is started somewhere in 13th July 2020. So 13th July 2020, we have started the treatment. It continued by till 31st July, and then finally ended on 7th September. And again for 555, it is 16th June 2020, and it is 15th September 2020. These are the treatment dates, various treatments that we are given at the different stages of the, let's say that the patient 111, the subject 111 is in 3 stages, that is 3 elements in your clinical trial. So here are 2 elements in the clinical trial, only 1 element, 3 elements, and 2 elements, right? This is the data. Now what I am expecting here is, I'm expecting the output like this. That is my desired output. All I'm expecting in the desired output is, let me take this completely, then I can modify as per my wish. The first one, this is going to be subject ID, correct? And the second one is going to be, I don't want this placebo and all, I just need the sex details of this particular person. I'll enter it this later. Then I have something called my reference start date and time. I need a reference end date and time. All right. Now there are going to be the changes. So 111 M. So for this particular guy, this is the start date, correct? So the start date is going to be 2020 4th 0409, correct? For the same one, can I say this is going to be the end date? There is a question. Why 444 is getting different treatments? This is a crossover study. This is a crossover study, right? Crossover study doesn't need to be all the time. All the patients will be having the same different drugs. It can be few patients I continue to give the same drug also with the different dosages, right? So here for the first guy, I have given the placebo. Placebo is a fake pill, no issues at all. For 222, I have given two different drugs, but with two different dosages. No, that's what I'm saying. Same drug with different dosages. I haven't talked about the dosage frequency. Correct, Mohanty? Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Right. So now when it comes to this one, it is going to be 2020 17th July. This is going to be the treatment start date and end date. So can I say that for 111, this is going to be my start date and end date. So 222 is also going to be a male. It is going to be 2020 September. That is 09 is the September and 12th. It started by 12th. Now, what is going to be the end date for this particular person? 2020. October is 10th, followed by 10th. Correct? 333. She's a female. The treatment started on 2020 08/11, correct? 11th August. And the treatment end date, there is no treatment end date. I can say that. Can I say that there is no treatment end date for 103? So what can I understand here? The same is going to be considered as the end date also. Only one treatment, correct? So the same day is going to be the end day as well. So when it comes to this, that is your 444, again female, 713, it is going to be 0713. It is here 2020, September is 09 and 07, correct? So guys, you need to understand what I'm trying to do here. It is not, I can straight away give you the output. Instead, the reason I'm explaining this will be, you can understand the logic. That's the reason I'm explaining it, nothing more than that. Otherwise, simply I can say, guys, this is going to be the output that I need. This is going to be your September 09/15. So can all of you understand what I'm expecting here? All I'm expecting here is going to be, I need to, when the subject is undergoing the different treatments on the different days, the moment the treatment start is going to be a treatment start date, and when the treatment is completed is going to be a treatment end date. And I need both treatment start date and end date in a proper format. What is that proper format? Yeah, IS 8601 DA, 8601 DA, not DT, DA, because we don't have the timestamp, we only have the date here. Can you guys do this? I'm going to share the notes right away. Right after this, I'm going to share it with the Bolisa, and Bolisa will share it with you. Otherwise, if all of you are in this WhatsApp group, I am part of one of the WhatsApp group. So if you are part of that group, I immediately share it in that particular group as well. All right. But on a lighter note, what I can do is immediately I'll share it with Bolisa. Bolisa will share it with you right away. Ask him to share it right after this class. So now the question is going to be, so there are 3 tasks that I have given to all of you. So now the question is, you want to have, can you complete this by tomorrow, and can we continue in the tomorrow's class, or you want to have the class by day after? You take your time, you complete this, and day after tomorrow we can connect again for the next topic, or we continue the class by tomorrow. It's up to you. So if you tell me, based on that, I can get the confirmation. So can we continue tomorrow, or can we meet day after? Everyone, I need your inputs. So sure, Mohanty, I'll share it, but I just need the confirmation. When do you need it? Tomorrow or day after tomorrow, the next class? Day after, 2 people so far. How about others? All right.
Here I have one doubt. Here I have one
Yes,
doubt.
please.
This subject ID 111, we have given only placebo. So here we are desired output. We are mentioning reference start date and reference end date. It is not applicable actually.
True, true. If you go with, mean to say, strictly as per the clinical trials, I can say that the same placebo I have given 3 times, because the subject doesn't know, because let's say that it is a blinded, double-blinded one. Patient doesn't know what exactly the treatment that he is providing with, we are giving with, correct? He don't know that the placebo we are giving to him. So when the patient is not aware of it, it is applicable. If it is a single blinded or if it is a no blinded one, as you said, it is not correct. So there is a small class here. The class is going to be what blinded it is. If it is going to be a double blinded one, it can be applicable. I can give the same placebo to the control group anytime I want. Nothing wrong in that. Am I correct? I don't know who asked this particular question, but will it be correct or not? But if it is an unblinded one, yes, you are correct. Questions?
Okay.
So don't go too much into the CDISC. So try to go with SAS now. So you understand the concept, right? So this is about creating your output. So suppose if you feel like, Murli, I'm not comfortable with placebo here, all I'm going to do is I just change it to drug A. So all these I'll change it to drug A, so that no issues at all. Or since it is going to be what to say, crossover study, I'll just say drug A, drug B, and drug B. Okay, with the different doses in the drug B, so that no issues at all. Because anyway, I'm not having that in the output. All I'm concentrating on, like, what is going to be my treatment start date and end date. So it is not going to be a big problem. Just to make sure that everything is going to be in line, I just go with like this, so that no issues now. All right, that's all for today, guys. So let's connect on day after tomorrow, except Raja. Everyone is asking for day after tomorrow, so let's connect day after tomorrow on it. All right, thanks everyone, take care, bye.